Fans, we're back live on the Cheap Heat Productions Podcast Network. My name is Jack Kilby, No Gimmicks Guy on the socials. And I'm very, very excited today to be speaking to a man who is a second generation star. And you want to talk about one of the most beloved characters of all time in the professional wrestling business. It would be his father, Psycho Sid Vicious, Sid Justice. I've got a lot of input from you fans out there. Going to get some of those questions in, but I'm very pleased to welcome to the show Mr. Gunnar Eudy, known as 2 Psycho. How are you today, sir?
Hey, thank you, Jack, for having me. I'm doing pretty good. It's still a little early out here in Vegas, 9:25 in the morning, but made it to the gym, made it in. This is my early breakfast lunch, so I'm gonna go to work after this. But hanging in there, doing good. Everything's rolling fast. Just everything's doing what I want it to do right now.
Good stuff. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show because you look at one of the most talked about figures in professional wrestling during that golden era, and Sid's name comes right up there. What a larger than life figure in the ring as Psycho Sid Vicious. I was a big fan of his WCW runs in particular, but what are some of your earliest memories watching your father wrestle either on TV, backstage, and how did that shape your own view of the business?
Well, for me particularly, he was he was injured and broke his leg when I was 10, 12 years old. So I don't really have a whole lot of memories of that, but what I do have memories of is, from the time I was, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, was going on tour with him on the indie circuit. And that's, to me, that gave me the broader view of what wrestling is over the corporate view of what I could have seen if I was a little older. My brother, on the other hand, he went to all those shows. He's got all the pictures of RoboCop and Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, Iron Sheik, all those guys. But I missed out on most of that. I was born in '93, but for me, like I said, it'd be the independent circuit. We had Scott Hall came and lived with us for like a year, maybe longer. It felt like it was 20 years. But we went on tour across the country doing all kind of shows. It was fun.
Mm-hmm. Growing up as the son of a wrestling icon must have come with its own unique pressures or not. I'm just interested in getting your experience generally, not specific in terms of this show or that show, but what was it like growing up in that spotlight, and not only just a professional wrestler, an all-time Hall of Famer?
Well, you got to think about it like this too, is, he was big worldwide, but we live in a town of 12,000 people currently. So then, it was probably like 8,000. So, I mean, the superstardom was really there in the small town of Marion, Arkansas. And it still is. But it was, everybody was cool about it. Living in a small Southern town, everybody's pretty humble. So most people will stay out of your business to start with. But of course you have people that, hound you all the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Did you, in terms of, when you're in the stage of becoming aware of the business and you touched on it, its inner workings, what did, your father impart to you about, a lot of fans have an idea that they understand the business and et cetera, but being on the, ultra inside, like your dad was, what did he talk to you about wrestling in general when he was out on that indie circuit that he did so well?
Well, he never was a big fan of wrestling himself. He never really had a true love for it, but but what he did love was the people, and he loved it more on the indie side than the the mainstream side. But he made that little documentary. It was called F is for Fun. They ended up changing the name to The Promotion. You can find it. It's short. I think it's on YouTube and Facebook. But if you look at that kind of shows what he was showing me, and it was the 2026, kayfabe's out the window. Everybody knows wrestling's work, but it's one of those things, like when you go to those small independent things, even though they know, they still believe it, and it's that's hard to get that feeling from anywhere. And that's kind of what gives it to me. And then, my motivation myself is my kids. I want to try to do a little something for them. Whether I make it far or I don't, I'm gonna put myself in the physical condition to make it as far as possible. But we'll see. I've waited a little long to start the journey, but it is what it is.
Well, yeah, we're going to get into all of that, and anybody that follows you on social media knows that you're paying your dues in the gym, and that's that's so important. Adam Newsom, speaking of great wrestlers, is saying he's been following your career, and he's very proud of your accomplishments to date.
Thank you, Adam. I've my beginning part of my career. Sorry for eating. I gotta
all
eat
good.
when I can. I have a lot of snacks right here. I got a peanut butter sandwich, some beef jerky, some grapes, big glass of milk, skim milk, a coffee, and a bottle of water. So we're gonna make it.
Protein.
But yeah, my wrestling journey, in my mind, it hasn't even started yet. The wrestling experience that I have had is and I've told the story. I'll try to make it a little shorter, but came up from school, 15, 2 months away from turning 16. And my dad says, "Here, try this on." He hands me these blue overalls. Try those on. He said, "Here, try this on." He gives me this like blue and white flannel shirt. He was just, digging random stuff out of the closet. And then the last thing he handed me was the Lord Humongous hockey mask. He said, "Try this on." I was like, "Okay, what are we doing?" He said, "Well, look, I'm glad it fits." He said, "Go get your boots cleaned up. We're going to go wrestling tonight." I was like, "We're going to go wrestling." I had the slightest clue about anything in a ring. 15 years old. The only wrestling I'd ever done was on a Nintendo 64. But it was quite the thing, clumsy kid. Drug out to Osceola, was where I made my debut with him, and Lord Humongous. And he's like, "Don't worry, I'll teach you when we get there." We get there. I said, "Okay, what are you going to teach me?" It's like an hour before doors. He says, "No, don't worry about it. Leave me alone. We'll call it in the ring." I was like, "We're going to call it in the ring." I don't even know the name of any wrestling moves. I know that you hit, I know the buttons on a controller. I don't know the names of any wrestling moves, and I still don't know the name of very many. But he's like, it's fine. It'll be simple. We went out there, and he walked me through it, held my hand through the whole thing. I was wrestling him, and it was, test of strength, bear hug, cobra clutch. I think that was it for that first match. And then we did it again the next night in another town. And then we did it every Friday and Saturday for the next 4 or 5 years. And I didn't get any training until probably my last 6 months of doing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's definitely old school. Gonna ask you the first of several fan questions. Notwithstanding the fact that you weren't around during or cognizant during some of his best runs in WWF or WCW or whatnot, but fans are asking, out of all that you've been able to see and research on your own, out of all his great moments, is there a particular match, storyline, or event that stands out to you that you appreciate over the course of his career, whenever that may be?
I mean, I believe him and Shawn Michaels had the best match he ever had. But Shawn was a really good technical wrestler, and my dad was just a big guy. But he was a decent wrestler. He was a great big guy, but he wasn't a luchador for. But anyway, but my most memorable match, that I've never watched it live. I didn't see it until I was older, but it was would have to be him and Halloween Havoc, when he just bled so much. It was that's what's locked in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the crazy part where he rolls his eyes back in the back of his head when it was some Stone Cold, right? Yeah. See, I can't even remember who he's wrestling with because I just mark out for my dad and didn't pay attention to another guy.
Yeah, that's cool. You know, you've spoken about your dad being, such a devoted family guy, grandfather, big animal lover, all kinds of charity work that he didn't really throw out there or trumpet for clout or anything like that. So when you see that private side of your dad, uh, was it hard to reconcile as a kid or otherwise? Those intimidating characters that he played, the ultimate intimidating characters that he played in WWE and WCW and elsewhere.
Well, although him being a really nice guy to most people, he was pretty hard on us. So there was times we saw the Psycho personality. I remember when I was probably, probably 15, 16 years old when I was wrestling with him. He was mad at me about something. He was, getting on me pretty hard. I said, man, that Psycho thing, it really stuck, didn't it? But that really made it worse. But anyway, no, I saw how he could definitely have the persona on stage because at the end of the day, he was a little psycho. That wasn't all the work. But he was extremely caring and nice to homeless people and stray dogs. But it was, that was the entire thing growing up. My whole life, we always kept he always kept, cooked huge meals. We'd have a bunch of leftovers and we didn't keep leftovers in the house. We were cooking fresh again the next day. So all the leftovers from breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they'd go in a big, what most people use to cook a turkey in on Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever you guys do in Canada. Sorry. But
we have our Thanksgiving a little bit earlier. That's the deal.
Okay. But and then there was a house, just a mile or two out in the country past our neighborhood. And they always had, a bunch of stray dogs out there. And we took the food out there 7 days a week in the afternoons, after dinner. That was the thing. We drove out there in his little Bronco and we fed the dogs. And then we'd have our dogs in the Bronco and we'd go out to the levee by the Mississippi River. If you don't know what a levee is, a big mound of dirt, really long. But we let the dogs go out there and run. And then as he got older, he really started getting more in touch with the earth. And like him and my son, he'd pick my son up from school. They'd go out we have a place called the Wapanaka Wildlife Refuge. And they'd go out there and they would walk through the woods and pick up all the plastic and cups and cans and trash. And that's what they did in their free time, was they go feed stray animals and pick up trash. Mm. But he was a unique person for sure. He always went to the food drives in Memphis. He went to the soup kitchens. He gave soup to the homeless, all that stuff, all the time. He never advertised that stuff, but he always did it. It was every week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You followed or following in his footsteps. You've got the excellent moniker "Two Psycho." Aside from your rather unceremonious introduction into working in the ring yourself, what made you decide to go full gear into things now? And how has carrying the Psycho legacy influenced your style or approach in the business?
Well, for starters, I'm still working on myself a lot, mentally and physically. The Psycho character is not a super easy one to pull off, especially when you're trying to match that level of intensity. So it's a hard thing to do. I just had a little show a week or two ago right outside of Memphis, but that promoter didn't want the Psycho thing. He wanted to come out there nice, so that's what I did. I came out there as a super nice guy. But anyway, losing track of thought now, thinking about that guy. I kind of want to go back and choke him a little bit. I hope he's watching this. Anyway, it's gonna be tough. It's I got a lot of obstacles I gotta get over myself to get in there. Number one, I got to remember when I go out to the ring to take a piece of gum, because my mouth got so dry when I got out there I couldn't speak. I'm prepared today. I got a bag of gum just in case. This is what Dad always chewed, by the way. Extra original bubble gum. He chewed that every day in the gym. He chewed it in the ring. Um, it's got the longest lasting. It's not a gum you want to swallow.
And we'll sponsor them too, just because it's that good of a in terms of, I think we've got a couple of fan questions. One of which I think I know the answer to. Ibzan is saying, he was a big fan of your father and all due respect in terms of his passing and generally, but he's also asking, did he have a man cave with his championships and other paraphernalia, or was that something, given the rather instrumental approach that he had to pro wrestling, that he didn't have?
He never really had any memorabilia. Everything that he ever got, he gave it away. He didn't keep much. I have very few things. Like I have a couple of vests, pair of boots. I can't fit them. My feet are bigger than his. But he wore 14, I wore 15. But anyway, he's no man cave of wrestling paraphernalia. Is that even paraphernalia? I thought it was drugs and items you did drugs with. I don't know.
Memorabilia maybe is the
memorabilia. Maybe that's what he's working for. They would always every time they come out with a new figure of them, they always send, and they still send them. They send like I think $20 to the house first. And I mean, within 2 days, he'd give them all away. My mom would have to hide them. My mom has a lot of stuff, but my dad never kept anything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Another fan question is asking about. Did your dad ever speak of, the man who cast such a shadow on the business still to this day, Vince McMahon? Any Vince McMahon stories you may have been privy to, third hand or whatnot?
I'm still not 100% sure why my dad didn't really like Vince to this day, which, I get he's an unlikable person. But the only thing I remember about Vince is, probably a year after my dad broke his leg and he recovered, Vince would call the house, and he called, for days, for a couple of weeks, and I'd answer the phone. I said, hello. He'd say, this is Vince McMahon. Is your dad there? And I said, hey, Dad, Vince McMahon's on the phone. He said, hang the freaking phone up. Sorry, I don't know what kind of show this is. I won't start cussing, but he said, hang the freaking phone up. I hung up on Vince McMahon several times. That's the only memory I have of him. Mm-hmm. He was mad and he didn't want to talk.
How much of the there's a mythology that goes with your dad, especially in the you listen to those that were in positions of power in either WCW or a WWF, that they always seem to talk about Sid's love of softball and actually skipping shows to go on softball tournaments, games. How much of that is fact versus fiction, and is it overstated or just one of those things?
It might be a little overstated, but not extremely. I'm sure he probably skipped a show or two for softball, but something in that show, there's probably something to do with that show he didn't like either. Whether it be they wanted him to do something he didn't want to do, or it was somewhere he didn't want to go, or it was a person he didn't like. He had a lot of people he didn't like. But he had a good way of seeing through people and their facades. And, he was quick with judgment as well. Mm-hmm. So, I'm sure he actually missed a couple shows to go play softball. He did love softball. He didn't play it when he was older, but he quit playing softball before he quit wrestling. So that's one of those things. Everybody says I should do a softball tournament for him instead of a wrestling show. I might be able to do a softball tournament too, but I'm not a softball player. I've never played, so I'd have to try first.
Well, thanks for setting the record straight on that. But speaking of your endeavors, you're now launching your own promotion to the Wrestling Order based in Arkansas, I understand, of course. And you did the Psycho Sid Memorial Benefit Show. Great stuff, benefit shows. What inspired you to do both ventures? And this is kind of maybe this is too philosophical a question at this point in time, but how do you plan to honor his legacy while putting your own stamp on it that you're your own man?
That's a tough one to do. And at the end of the day, if the only thing I accomplish is honoring his legacy, then that's fine by me. The whole wrestling promotion thing, that's me and my partner, formerly Buzzkill, currently trying to steal the name Too Vicious. He's also too short, but no, sorry, Stumpy. But he's been wanting to do it for a long time, and he's been trying to talk me into it, and I've just been waiting until I was in a place where I wanted to do it. And then now my oldest child's 7 years old, and he's in love with wrestling. He's watching the wrestling movies and matches on TV and YouTube all day long. He's got all the figures, he's got the rings, he's got the cages, he's got everything. But his interest in it is really what's accelerated mine. And then that's at another thing, another stop too is it's for me it's kind of like a now or never moment, which there are people that have made it later. I don't remember the exact age, but someone was telling me a while back, Diamond Dallas Page, he was a referee and manager, and he didn't make it big in wrestling until he was I want to say 37 or 40 or something.
Yeah, I think 35 plus. Yeah.
And then when he made it, he was huge, so it is possible. Stuff like that gives me a little motivation. If a little skimpy guy like him can do it, maybe I can too. But whether I make it big or I don't make it anywhere or I make it on a show, it doesn't matter to me. We're going to have our promotion, TWO. We're going to launch it with the first, and that's going to be an annual memorial show benefit. The benefit will probably go to the animal shelter every year, but it's we might change it, might not sure on that. But we've always wanted to, it's so much fun watching, if you go to these independent shows, when you get to the intermission, watching all the kids get in the ring and just have, that part right there is a good time. So we're wanting to, do that, run summer camps for kids to come up and train or whatever, and then do training year round as well. So it's now with me, it's hard. I'm on the road all the time, but Stumpy lives there, so that kind of balances it out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Very cool. Got a fan question, which if you don't know, that's cool, but they always want to know about what the wildest road story that your father may have communicated to you, or rib, or anything like that. That's very popular.
Well, obviously, very obviously, the wildest story is him and Arn Anderson, but I'm not going to talk about that one. It's been talked about enough. But I would say one of the rib would be, and that my memory's a little blurry on this, but they were traveling in a rental van. The boys do that all the time. They would take all their flight money and they'd rent a car and they'd all travel together and they would all pile up in one hotel room, take the hotel money, just all make extra money all year long. But it was him and the Nasty Boys, and I want to say Jimmy Snuka. I'm not 100% sure on Snuka though. I have stories with him too. So, but it's maybe it was just anyway. There's 4 of them all together, and they're traveling in a van. They're staying in a hotel room, and my dad didn't really drink. He was too worried about going to the gym in the morning. And obviously, the Nasty Boys drink, and they were all. Everybody was drunk. I can't remember who the third one was. I don't think it was Jimmy, because Jimmy was fired by then. So I'm not sure. I can't remember the third. But they're all 4 staying in one room, and they all make it back from the bar, 2 or 3 a.m. drunk. They get in their bed, go to sleep. My dad's already been asleep. He's getting up to go to the gym. So he turns the thermostat up to, as high as it'll go, 90 degrees before you leave. Turns the heat on in the room. Goes to the gym, works out, takes a shower at the gym, changes clothes, goes, eats breakfast, gets the car, goes to the room, gets his bag and checks out. He says they're all just laying on their backs in their bed like a mummy with their arms up, just rolling in sweat. And they're all too drunk and lazy to get up and turn the heat off. But it's stories like that, stories about them leaving, trying to pick up hitchhikers and driving off and leaving them, get the window busted out of the car. They did all kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a different generation than what we hear about today. I guess, you've commented that your father didn't, wasn't in love for or with the business, or not a mark for the business or whatnot. Do you know why that was? And second part of the question, and I think it's kind of related to what values did your father instill in you that carry you through life, and also your approach to your own endeavors in pro wrestling now?
Everybody says this about their father or their grandfather, and everybody thinks they're being true, but I am when I say this, and I mean it. My dad was the hardest working person I have ever seen in my life, and I've seen a lot of people. Even up until the day he died, stage 4 cancer. He's out there mowing his own yard. He's edging the driveway. He's weed eating. He's cutting the shrubs. He's getting on his bike in his living room. He's doing 20 miles on the bike, or he's riding the bike for 4 hours. He's going to the gym. He's doing these boxing classes, all while getting chemo treatments every day. It's even when he broke his leg, he came home. He's on a walker. It might not have been the next day, but it might have been just 2 or 3 days tops. He's going to the gym. He's on the walker, broken leg, staples from his knee to his ankle. He was in the gym every day on the walker. He never stopped. They always, when they first happened, they said, you're never going to walk again. And if you do, you'll never walk right. And I mean, he proved them wrong, was running bleachers again in no time out at the track. But early mornings, late nights, he's, like I said, hardest training person in the gym. He went to the gym. He'd wake up 4 a.m. It was his ritual. He'd go upstairs and he'd get in the tanning bed and he would tan. Then he'd go back and take a shower. He'd eat a quick snack and he'd go to the gym and he'd work out for 3 hours and he'd come home, eat a second breakfast, take a nap, wake up, go back to the gym and do his cardio or triceps, because he did chest in the morning, triceps in the afternoon, back in the morning, biceps in the afternoon. He always, shoulders and then the track in the afternoon, running bleachers, all that stuff. He always stacked everything on top of each other. And he was very good at time management and making sure that he was doing something every second of the day.
Mm-hmm. Definitely admirable. A fan wanted to know, being a second generation star yourself, do you feel any pressure to succeed or carry on the name that, say, a first generation worker might not, and how do you intellectualize that whole thing?
Like I said, at the end of the day, it's all for my son and daughter. My daughter's young, not into wrestling yet, but she might be. So right now it's primarily for my son, who's huge into wrestling. And it's all about honoring his poppers, what he calls them. So, riding off the name, it helps. It's familiar. It's whatever, obviously I think every wrestler's in history has changed their name 1,000 times. So, I could be Princess P next week. You never know. It's
not sure that would be a money move.
Well, it is what it is. I've always said this face is money, but when I was kind of held up there on my response because when you went to do it, you said, and being a second generation superstar, that was, hey, you stiffed me right there. I felt it. It cut me right here in my heart.
No.
I don't even know what side my
Second
heart's on
generation
anymore.
star.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you're like star. It's questionable.
So, speaking in terms of your, and this might be a difficult thing to boil down to or summarize, but what would you regard as your dad's lasting imprint on the professional wrestling business? What would you say his I know there's a lot of contributions, but his primary contribution to that time when business was never better, and he was certainly a centerpiece of that whole deal?
It's hard to be a hill that sells as a baby, and he did that successful for a long time. He was he had the look, he had the intensity, just overall, through that attitude era, as it's been coined, he had the most attitude, in my opinion. Definitely felt like it to me, which once again, it's my father. I'm going to be biased to him at the end of the day, no matter what. If you ask me who the greatest wrestler of all time is, I'm going to say Hornswoggle. But didn't see that one coming. Neither did I. But it's yeah. I forgot the question.
Just if you could, yeah, that's for me too. So if you could summarize what you think his preeminent contribution is to the business, like what would you consider his legacy being?
I mean, I would consider his legacy being the definition of a wrestler, look, persona, and capabilities. There's not many guys that were 315 pounds and 6'9" that could nip up, and he did. So I would just have to say that as his legacy was a true powerhouse and a true bad mofo when it came to wrestling and that era. Mm-hmm. I wish he would have had a longer career. I wish, he could have went back after he broke his leg, but there's a lot of, things between WCW going back to WWF and him not liking Vince, probably because he's fired for stabbing Arn Anderson. That's the only thing I can imagine, but it's stabbing him back.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's
right.
It's but yeah, it's that's how I would have to sum it up. It's
excellent
definition of a wrestler, definition of a big wrestler. Obviously there's, Rey Mysterio has his own definition of a wrestler. It's there's different types, but if you look at wrestler when it was in bold letters and had an underline, Psycho Sid.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The prototype. We have time for one more fan question. In terms of favorite opponents, did your dad talk about who he liked to work with in the ring? And aside from Double A, who did he not like to work with?
Him and Arn Anderson, they made up there towards the end. So my dad always liked Ole. So that was there wasn't the hatchet was buried. There wasn't any beef left with him. But I would have to say the person he always mentioned the most would and I don't even know how much he worked with him, but it would be, Vader and Bam Bam. Two big guys that could move. And I don't know if when he talked about that, I don't know if he was talking about working with them or working against them. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Vader and your dad were one heck of a team there in WCW for a while. Broke them up too early, I thought. I want to thank you for your time today. You're a very busy man, and I was glad that we were able to nail this down. But the last question is with respect to you. looking ahead, what would you characterize as your biggest goals for yourself and the promotion? And do you have a hope that I mean, this is an inevitability, but do you hope that fans will continue to celebrate and honor your dad's career? That's probably a 3-part question, but tackle it whatever way you want.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot to chew off. I lost the beginning. I just have the end.
I tend to do that.
So it was. Yeah, could you repeat the question again?
Sure. Your biggest goals in as a worker yourself, for your company, and then the fan aspect as to your dad's career.
My biggest goals would be to get the memorial show over and to continuously get it over for years to come. It's going to be an annual show. That's my biggest goals personally, is to honor him, and get a little spotlight for my son. My goals personally as well would be to get in his. I want to get in as good a physical condition as he was. I have a slightly larger frame than him. I'm about 1 inch taller than he was, and my shoulders a little broader. My legs are bigger. I got so I really do have a potential of being slightly bigger than he ever was. So that's the current goal, is to be as big as he was, maybe a little bigger in the next 5 years. And then as far as wrestling goes, WWE, WrestleMania, I don't really care. I would like WWE to induct him into the Hall of Fame. I would like to be in great shape and be able to go accept that nomination. But at the end of the day, do I ever really want to work for them? Not necessarily, but if I do make it well enough and I get good enough and the money's good enough, then yeah, then nothing's impossible. I'm not, I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid. It's but is that my goal? Absolutely not. If it happens, that's great. And what would I like to do off that? I would like to maybe get into some movies. That seems to be the best play. I'd rather do, use it as a stepping stone, if anything. But I have a great job currently. I'm on the road all the time. I think I was on the road 280 days last year. But it's tough. It's fun. I'm busy. I go to the gym 7 days a week, 5 a.m., work out for 2 hours, do the stair stepper for 30 minutes, and come back, shower, go to work. It's rinse and repeat for me every day. Boiled eggs and my cheat meal's a peanut butter sandwich. I just had that.
Well, you definitely from the fans that follow you on social media, you can see that work ethic much akin to your father's, and you certainly have the genetics and the attitude to do whatever you want to do in this business. But speaking of social media, where can everyone find you and follow what you're up to on those social media platforms?
I'm currently, I've never been largely involved in social media. One of my biggest interests was when it was MySpace, and then Facebook took over, and I really have never really liked Facebook, but that is the one I've been on the most. It's where I have my largest following, which isn't a super big following. But I'm on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, X. I think I have like 3 followers on X. I just created it. It's so hard to post on so many different things. So it's primarily right now I'm on Facebook, but I just got shadow banned on Facebook for 30 days. Today's the last day because I said something bad in the comments. It wasn't really that bad. It was a joke about a video that has 90 million views. I think it's acceptable. But anyway, it was Facebook for now. I'm trying to grow Instagram. I'm trying to grow TikTok. I'm gonna eventually try to grow X. But Facebook for now. It's where I'm the most active.
And on all those platforms, including X, it's your name, correct?
Yes, it's Gunnar Eudy or Two Psycho, TWSYCHO. Currently working on a signature. I went to that wrestling show the other day, and these kids were in there. They're like, "Can we have autograph? Can we have autograph?" I said, let's just do a picture. I'm like, I haven't even thought that far yet. I'm so busy with this whole wrestling thing. I'm busy mentally, financially, and physically with the production of it. The speakers, lights, cameras. All the vinyl. It's a lot of stuff goes into a show, even when it's a small independent show. And then I work for a production company, so obviously I want my production to be a little more advanced than other independent circuits. So
Well,
there's a lot of time and money going in this thing.
Yeah, most definitely. I would encourage the fans to seek you out on those platforms. It's an individual that you're obviously going to get a lot more, hear a lot more of in the future. And again, recognizing how busy you are, I want to thank you for taking your lunch post workout period to be on the Cheap Heat Productions podcast.
Hey, thank you, Jack. Thanks for having me. It's been a great show. You've managed to ask good questions. You managed to not bring up the one thing I didn't want to talk about. So that was great.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate that, sir, and we'll definitely keep in touch. And I'm sure if you're willing and can spare the time again, we'll have you back.
I would cut a psychotic promo, but it's just now 10 a.m. and I'm in a hotel in Las Vegas, so I can't get kicked out. People are still sleeping.
That is perfectly understandable. Appreciate it nonetheless. And fans, that's it for this edition of the Cheap Heat Productions podcast. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you at the matches. Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Cheap Heat Productions. Don't forget to hit the notification button, and you won't miss any of our upcoming interviews, recurring programs, or entertainment.